Welcome to the STEM Pathways with Rohan Sharma podcast, where we dive into the exciting world of science, technology, engineering, and math. In each episode, we share exciting stories, groundbreaking research, and inspiring interviews with experts and enthusiasts who are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just curious about how the world works, join us as we explore the endless possibilities of STEM. Let's get started. Today, I'll be interviewing Yashvir Sabharwal, who is currently an undergraduate at Harvard University studying neuroscience and economics. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm very excited to talk about a little bit of what I did in high school and how I got here at Harvard.
Yeah. So, as to get started, what was your kind of main thing that you did outside of school, during high school?
Yeah, sure. So I was involved in a lot of activities outside of high school. In fact, I think I did more activities outside of high school than I did in high school, like comparing to like clubs and other organizations. But I think one of the most impactful things I did outside of high school was I led the International Research Olympiad, which is essentially like an Olympiad similar to the like USABO or USACO, like these computing and biology Olympiads, but really aims towards research-minded people. So I had a couple of friends who had the same idea, and we decided that there weren't many research competitions that focused solely on actual research capabilities of the students. So we decided to design this entire competition around testing people's research abilities and how confident they can be in the lab and in their research papers. So we created this competition and grew it to 10,000 participants. We kind of put our research club in over 300 schools. And I think now it's starting to phase into sort of a larger competition as part of a bigger organization, which I'm really excited about. But that's one of the things I did. Another thing that I participated in, which I think is pretty unique to a lot of people who are actually in the STEM field or interested in like STEM majors, is something called the Civil Air Patrol. It's essentially the auxiliary of the United States Air Force. So, like every week, I went down to the Manassas National Armory, which is where I lived when I was in high school. And I would go there and learn about leadership and discipline. And I think that is really what molded me as a person today. So, in that organization, I was a part of that organization for over 6 years, and I learned a lot about like aviation and leadership, a lot of STEM. So that's where I kind of started with like a lot of my cyber skills, I guess you could say. I was really interested in like cybersecurity, so I participated in like Cyber Patriot and a lot of those competitions. Got my private pilot's license with the help of Civil Air Patrol, which is really awesome. And then I eventually kind of branched out into leadership roles. So I advocated for certain policies on the state and kind of the regional level of like the Eastern United States. And then I also went to Congress on Capitol Hill to advocate for a larger budget for STEM activities. So overall, I think those are the two biggest activities I did outside of high school.
Yeah. Oh, what led you to getting involved with this organization in the first place?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So my father was actually a pilot back when he was 18, 19 years old. So he started flying, got his commercial pilot's license, and now he flies volunteer search and rescue for the Air Force. So he was a part of this organization, and then he kind of roped me in. And then I actually really enjoyed being a part of the organization and learning about like what it's all about.
Yeah. So, one thing I wanted to ask about the Research Olympiad as well. I actually talked to Aditya Jain on the podcast like a while ago. Um, but what did these competitions look like? And then I know that um you guys kind of scaled it up a lot. You even had like the everyone come down to Harvard, I think, for the finals. What did that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we designed it, I think, pretty similar to all the other Olympiads that are out there for high schoolers. So we have an opens round where everyone can participate. It's essentially held in an online format that's proctored, but we have people read these research papers and then answer questions on them. So I think the most recent format was four papers, four like full-length research papers that they had to read, and then they had eight questions that were like following up on the research paper. So um, in total, there was like I think 32 questions per test, and then we also had a semifinals. So we essentially took the top 10% out of the people who were in the opens and tested them in the semifinals. And then out of that, the top 15 people scored the highest in the semifinals, like in correlation with their like oral score as well as their multiple choice question score and their free response score. We flew them out to Harvard and were able to test them in person.
Yeah. Um, so I guess just not specific to the Research Olympiad, but just to setting up an organization like this in general. What did that look like? Because you said you spread this to 300 schools, 10,000 kids, and then I guess you got funding somehow to fly everyone out. How did that work?
Yeah, so I think it was a very tough process at first. We were all like just starting out, trying to figure out how to grow this competition. Luckily, Rishabh, who kind of led the whole thing and started the whole thing, he obviously has a wide reach, like with younger STEM audiences. So, like he would start posting in his Discord servers and on his YouTube channels that we're starting a competition. And then I think it got a lot of feedback from the community, both positive and negative. So we were able to take this feedback and kind of shape the organization to make it something that was more official and something that would actually help students who are trying to, participate in this particular research competition. So then we got a lot of interest from students who wanted to volunteer. And so we had a large, I guess you could say, group of people who helped us kind of spread the word of the organization. So we had a lot of interviews with local news stations and with newspapers. So that kind of got the name out there. And after that, I think we started integrating the club into certain schools. So once one school, added the club, I think it also spread the word towards other schools in the district. And so the clubs grew rapidly in terms of both size and numbers in numerous different schools, which was really, really awesome. I think apart from that, I think students are looking for really anything to contribute to and be a part of when they're in high school to put on their college applications. So I think that's also another thing that really uh, kind of like yeah, it was a huge driver for growth, I think. It's just students who are hungry to participate and be a part of some type of competition.
Yeah. So, outside of the Olympiad and Civil Air Patrol, what else were you involved in?
Yeah, so I did a lot of science research in high school. So I was a part of a few labs virtually. So I did a lot of computational research in neuroscience. I was part of the Medical AI Research Center as well as Alljoined, which both focused on fMRI and EEG image reconstruction. So we essentially took a lot of data from patients and then we reconstructed what they were thinking of or looking at in real time. So essentially, this was almost like mind reading, which was really awesome. Something that I've always dreamt of doing is like, how can we kind of read people's minds and understand what people are thinking of? And this helped many people in several different ways. So people with disabilities, for example, those who couldn't see or couldn't speak, they would be able to use this tool to kind of imagine what they're thinking of and communicate with other people. People who are paralyzed and can't draw, for example, but they want to be an artist, they're able to think of the thing that they want to draw and it'll come to life for them. So I think that was really awesome research. And then I think that's leading to what I'm going to be doing this summer, which hopefully is working at a company like Neuralink or Orbit Engineering, which is a startup based out of Cambridge. So focused on like these brain-computer interfaces to help people. And then I think I also just mentioned this earlier, but I got my pilot's license. So in my free time, I like to go out to the airport and rent a plane and fly around, which I think is really fun. Haven't met anyone at Harvard who has their pilot's license yet, so we'll see. Hopefully, I'll find someone in the future to fly with out in Cambridge.
Yeah. So, with the research, how'd you get into it in the first place, and how early did you start?
Yeah, I think that's a great question because a lot of people don't know how to actually get started with their research and how to reach out to labs and professors. I think this is probably one of the biggest things that I advocate for people who are in high school trying to get into research is really just start with those cold emails. And I think the first thing to do is to try to understand maybe what type of field people are interested in and what they want to go into. So first understand like what part of STEM do you want to be like do you want to work in and kind of research in. And so for me that was pretty easy. I was really interested in computer science, so I knew I wanted to do something with artificial intelligence or machine learning. And then apart from that, since I would say in preschool, I've always wanted to do something related to neuroscience in the brain. So I decided to work in computational neuroscience. But I first started out with renal cell carcinoma. It was essentially a project that was like dedicated to one of my family members who suffered from something similar. So I decided to work on a project, and that got traction. A lot of MDs and physicians saw my paper and were really interested in it. So I was referred to a research organization. They really liked my work and they wanted me to work on one of their projects. So that's how I kind of got into a research lab, which was, I think, really unconventional compared to some other ways that students get into labs. But if you don't, get that lucky, which I was very fortunate to have that ability, I would recommend that a lot of people just start cold emailing professors and labs that you're interested in. Like make really personalized emails, always follow up. I think like when I was at ISEF, one of the panelists at one of the workshops, they said, they messaged their lab, I think like 8 or 9 times, and then like on the 10th or 11th time, the lab finally replied and accepted them into the lab. So I think that's just a sign that you should never give up like with your communications to professors and labs.
Yeah. So now that you're at Harvard, what kind of activities are you involved in?
Yeah, I think there's over 400 organizations at Harvard, so it's very hard to kind of like search all the organizations and choose which ones I wanted to be a part of. And one thing I didn't realize going into like university was that the clubs are actually very competitive to get into, which was a huge surprise. So on top of like the 3% it takes to get in, there's like another 10% that you have to beat the odds for to get into like these clubs at Harvard. So I'm part of the Open Bio initiative, which is like a laboratory that connects students to certain labs. So I'm on the engagement team for that. So I work on these particular programs, like the Summer Research Initiative, or for people to, apply to and get paired with labs. I'm also part of the behavioral strategy group, which is kind of like a consulting group. So was really interested in it for the first semester. I got to work with, I think the fourth or the fifth largest pharma company in the world, which is really awesome. Got to work on their really cool their like eye drop medications and how we can increase sales for their unit. I'm also part of MIT's flying club because Harvard doesn't have one, so like I always go down to MIT to meet with the people there who fly. And then I'm also part of a lot of affinity groups at Harvard, so like the South Asian Men's Collective, South Asian Business Association. And then I think maybe one of my favorite clubs is startups at Harvard. Really interested in ventures and startups, so they bring like a lot of cool speakers and founders, etc., to the table.
Yeah. So you said that you're involved with the big pharma company. Does being kind of in the medical field and then also being in the Boston area, which is kind of the hub of everything, are there any other cool opportunities related to that that you've gotten or you know that other people have gotten?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest reasons why I chose Harvard was because of the life sciences scene in Boston and the Cambridge area. So I recently went down to the office of Link Ventures, which is like a venture capital firm, to meet with some of their investors. And like in that same building, I think there was like 10 other biotech firms that were in there that, weren't even related to Link Ventures, but they were just in the area. So I think like out of all the office space that can be leased in Cambridge and like the Boston area, I'd estimate like 80% of it is like biotech companies, which is absolutely insane. And so like I remember for IRO finals, we were walking in Seaport, which is like near the harbor in Boston. And we were just walking down and like we passed like Vertex Pharmaceuticals, we passed Pfizer, Moderna, all these huge biotech companies, which is really cool. So one thing that we do as part of the Open Bio Initiative is we bring on speakers from these biotech companies. So I think that's also like one of the biggest and the greatest opportunities I've gotten to have is invite these biotech and pharma speakers onto stage and have them explain their process and their leadership and how they grew their biotech companies in the Boston Cambridge area. A lot of my friends have worked in like biotech venture, which I think is really awesome. As a freshman or sophomore in college, being able to kind of supervise or like, tag along a biotech venture team and look at the innovation that's coming up around the world, which is pretty cool. A lot of my friends are, working at these biotech and pharma companies, which is pretty cool, as interns, as like research interns or molecular engineers, which is really awesome. And then I think like another plus of being in the area is you're able to cross-register in classes with MIT, which is really awesome. So a lot of my friends are taking drug design courses at MIT, or a lot of my MIT friends are coming over and doing research at some Harvard labs. We have some really incredible people. For example, I was just looking at George Church's lab, really influential STEM person who has contributed heavily to the field of biology, has like over 50 startups that have spun out of his lab, which is really incredible. So yeah, I think there's so many opportunities in like the Boston Cambridge area. So it's pretty hard to comprehend, but yeah, I think it's a lot of my friends have pursued these opportunities.
Yeah. So, as I'm also a freshman in college, and as of now, like I still have a very, very vague of idea of like what I want to do in the future. Um, as you're kind of all over the place, like you fly planes, you kind of interested in biotech, and then you're also doing this very deep like computational biology research. Do you know what you want to do once you graduate?
Yeah, I think my answer to this question has probably changed at least 10 times since I've actually matriculated to college. So I think in the first week of college, I was planning to be pre-med. So I was like really grinding out all my coursework and I was like starting to figure out what I wanted to do in order to apply and be competitive for med schools. And then I realized, I would first have to go through the whole application process again. So that involved essays, letters of recommendations, volunteering, clinical research. And then it would be another 7 years of schooling before I'd actually be able to start practicing medicine and in the way that I would want to. So I decided quickly that, the pre-med path wasn't for me. So I went back to the drawing board and I decided that I'm really interested in biotech. I think, artificial intelligence is a space I'm really invested in. I'm, starting to post on X a lot about some of my thoughts in AI and biotech, and yeah, I think the field is just going to expand at an exponential rate like this next year. So I think like AI agents will be kind of running a lot of our monotonous tasks in the world. So for example, I think in the future the economy will be run by, millions of AI agents. I don't think we'll have to work, in 30, 40, 50 years. I think we'll be able to achieve all of these incredible things with artificial intelligence. So I decided to focus more on like CS and artificial intelligence rather than going the pre-med route. So the ultimate goal is to actually drop out, which I know is like it sounds pretty crazy coming from a Harvard student, but what I really want to do is create something that I love. So I'm actually, you know, beginning to form a startup with one of my co-founders at Harvard, and we hopefully can create a really interesting biotech startup. Raise some money and then drop out and try to contribute to this world of biotechnology.
Yeah. So, as I've talked to like a bunch of Y Combinator people on this podcast, I had like a whole startup phase where I was finding like as many people as I could on LinkedIn involved with them and reaching out for the podcast. And it's definitely a really interesting thing to be involved in. Um, and I guess also stressful, risky, all these other things. But every person I see who is involved with startups is definitely very excited about it, and I like how they're all actually passionate about what they do. So, I don't know if you're comfortable talking about what your startup is about or if it's too early, but do you want to speak on that?
Yeah, sure. I think I've had many ideas for startups in the past. So, I think like the past few years, I've worked on tons of side projects which have like spun out. Some have spun out to be, something that was actually substantial. We got some trials from some like large companies on these side projects. But I think now I'm really gonna start sitting down and start figuring out what I want to do for my big project. The actual startup that I plan to make. I think right now we're very much in the ideation phase, so we're still working on what our goal is for the company, and what we want to, try to make out of this. We have some ideas. I think it'll be, really interesting in the future to see where the company trajectory goes, but it'll be something in artificial intelligence and biotech. I can't really say yet, but I think it's going to be some really interesting stuff that you should definitely look out for. But it'll be in the biotech space if that helps.
Yeah. And then I know I've seen some of these things about people are using AI to analyze what's the word? Like these scans of people. And then you said you're doing some research related to fMRI. Is that something you're looking into?
Yeah, so I think actually one of our early startup ideas was taking these like EEG scans and these machines and converting them into things that consumers can wear on the daily. It's still something that we're thinking about in this company, but I think we've shifted more towards the biotech side of things and like using artificial intelligence for drug discovery and design. But right now, um, yeah, that's actually like one of the ideas that I do want to pursue in the future. So it's essentially taking these EEG headsets and converting them into like hats or beanies that people can wear on the daily. And so what it would do is it would take, continuous scans using electroencephalography and reconstructing what these people are thinking of throughout the day. So you wouldn't need any like AI meeting recorders or voice recorders or, sorry, I think my dog is barking in the back there. But like you wouldn't need anything really um to like recollect on your day. And I think like one of the biggest like markets for this is people who are trying to reconstruct their dreams. So we've conducted some early stage testing, and we've let people wear these EG headsets, and they're actually able to reconstruct their dreams throughout the night, which is really awesome. So imagine like last night, whatever you dreamt of, you'd be able to in the morning get a brief like 5 minute overview of what your dream consisted of, and you know um, I think that's just something that I'm pretty passionate about, and I think it's really awesome. Haven't seen anyone else doing it right now, which is pretty cool. But that is definitely something I want to work on in the future, if it's not, the main startup idea.
Yeah. So for my last question, I wanted to ask if you have one piece of advice for someone who's still in high school, wanting to follow a similar path as you.
Yeah, I think in high school I received a lot of advice, and I think most of it was good. Some of it wasn't as good, but out of all the advice I received in high school, I think one of the most important pieces that I received that helped me was just to pursue every opportunity that was in front of me. So, whatever scholarship it was, whatever, club or application or program it was, I would always apply to pretty much everything that was put in front of me. And, I got rejected from a lot of them, but I was also accepted to a lot of them. And I think that everything that I participated in was like a very small part of my college application, and it really helped shape what I wanted to do in the future. So, yeah, I think my one piece of advice would be to really just exercise all of your opportunities and don't leave anything on the table. I think always, if you're presented something on a silver platter, it wouldn't be the best idea to push it away if it's given right in front of your face. So, yeah, definitely just pursue every opportunity that's available to you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope that other people find this helpful, and maybe we'll see some other people from this podcast in the Cambridge area in the future.